My name's Mark Sutton. I'm the creative director and co-founder of Precious Sound. Like me, I'm sure you've all seen gold records hanging on walls, office studios, bought by collectors. 5 years ago, I was sitting in a London cafe and it was music themed, and these records were everywhere. And one simple question hit me: do they play? So in fact, I actually bought one, took it apart, and actually tried. The reality was very different to the actual promotion. Saying that they don't promote it plays, but I thought at least a coating, it would play on a record player. The sound was terrible, but in fact, it wasn't even the artist's song. So that was most interesting. That moment changed everything because it led to a much bigger question. Could we create a gold record that actually truly does play? That genuinely connects a fan to their favourite artist. It allows artists to immortalise their music for future generations. I took that question to B.H. Meyer. What you're about to see is what happened next.
Big deine Hips. Nur du und ich allein, babe, it is what it is. Und schau nicht auf die Uhr. With you, it's step back from that ledge, my friend. We could cut ties for
When we started Precious Sound, we didn't set out to create a novelty. We set out to solve a problem that both artists and superfans deeply care about. I've spent the last 20 years creating high-end precious metal collectibles, objects that are visually striking, technically demanding, and emotionally meaningful. But this project pushed us way further than anything we'd ever attempted before. Because with music, visual alones are not enough. The sound really matters. At the beginning, we set what we believed was a realistic goal. If we could reach 70% of vinyl quality, we thought it would be enough. But then we started speaking directly with the artists, and we learned something very quickly. Artists don't compromise on the music. If their sound is attached to something, it has to sound perfect and just right, or it simply doesn't exist at all. So 70% wasn't enough. We needed true vinyl grade quality pressed into precious metal. What followed was over 4 years of development, thousands of test pressings, failures, breakthroughs, setbacks, and significant capital investment. After re-engineering every assumption we had about sound, how sound behaves on metal, the determination of the B.H. Meyer R&D team was extraordinary. This wasn't just about cutting and pressing grooves. It was about understanding how precious metal reacts at a microscopic level when sound waves are physically embedded into them. And at the same time, we faced another challenge, the one that doesn't exist with traditional precious metal collectibles. The records had to be playable on any manual record player, safe to touch without gloves, resistant to tarnishing, and stable for a long-term display and storage. To solve this, B.H. Meyer developed an entirely new coding system. This technology was incredible, something that simply did not exist before. This process alone took 3 years to develop. Only once sound quality and long-term protection were solved did we move forward. Along the way, we realized something critical. We don't have one customer, we had two. The first is the superfan. They want to feel chosen, connected, seen by the artists that followed for decades. They cared deeply that this gold record matters to the artist. This is not a licensed product with no personal involvement. They care a lot. The second customer was the artist. They want their legacy treated with respect for future generations in a way that deeply personalised. That's why these are not licensed products, they are collaborations between artist and precious sound. Because what we're doing requires direct involvement, Stephen Tyler is approving a finished product. He is currently recording his own personal message to go onto the record. And this will be included with the Aerosmith Dream On Pure Gold record released this year. That message is unique to the release. It becomes part of the object itself. With Bob Marley, the process went even further. I sat down directly with Saelzle Marley, Bob's daughter, not to present a concept, but to define the parameters together. We worked through what the One Love Gold record should represent, how to respect and protect her father's legacy. Environmental responsibility was a key aspect to it. So we're incorporating reclaimed ocean materials, hemp paper, and storytelling that reflects his values. Every decision was intentional. That level of collaboration takes time. It requires trust. These records aren't products, they're time capsules. As the technology evolved, so did the ambition. BHMI has spent the last 12 months developing the ability to produce two-sided records. This opens something incredible, powerful. A, we immortalise the original song. The B side, a personal message from the artist, a never released track, or something recorded exclusively for the collector. Now the object doesn't just play music, it speaks directly to the fan. That's the moment the collectible stops being an object and becomes an experience. From the very beginning, our objective was simple but ambitious: to immortalise incredible music and the artists who created it, to give fans something they can see, touch, and play. Something that connects to the artist in a deeply personal way. This is not about novelty, this is about intrinsic value. Crafted from precious metal, engineered to last for generations, not just culturally, but physically. And it's important to say this, and I clarify this, and I'm being brutally honest. What we created is not easy to replicate. It required 4 years of development, thousands of test pressings, entirely new coding technology, and absolute precision across sound, methodology, and preservation. Just as importantly, this work is built on direct artist relationships. Artists do not hand over their legacy lightly. This can't be licensed, this can't be copied. And now it can't be reverse engineered.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcus. I'm the resident sound engineer at BHMaya. I'd like to give you a short background on myself first. I've been a sound engineer for about 20 years. I've done a lot of recording, I've done mixing, I've done mastering. And a couple of years ago, I started with BHMaya as their resident sound guy. So I have three main functions in the company. The first function is cutting records. The second function is galvanics. And the third one is quality control. All equally important. Now let's start with cutting. I'll give you a little background on vinyl cutting. Usually, for the last about 60 years, records have been cut into lacquer. Lacquer is a soft material. The needle's heated and then cut into the lacquer. There's a couple of problems with lacquer when it comes to galvanics and specifically quality. And those were solved by Teldec and Neumann in the 1980s, early 1980s. They brought out a technology called direct metal mastering. Unfortunately, this technology arrived a little late. Right after it was released, the record industry kind of took a nosedive, or the vinyl industry took a nosedive. And those machines ended up usually being converted back to lacquer or not being built at all anymore. In total, there's about 12, 14 of them in the world. Not all of them are accessible to the public. So that's a very, very exclusive technology to be able to use. And we were very lucky and very privileged at BHMaya to be able to acquire a DMM machine that I cut with. The main benefit is a much higher quality. You have a much wider soundscape in the stereo field. You have a better resolution of the sound, which really helps us on such a small format so far on the inside of the record player. Now, a record groove is between 50 and 70 micrometers in width. That's not very wide. The depth is half of that, so we're talking about very small measurements that you need to be very precise in order for the record to sound good. Let's move on to galvanics. Our DMM process saves us some steps in the galvanic process, which makes our production a lot more efficient. But 5-inch records aren't an industry standard, so there's no material for us. We didn't have anything that we can just use that's already existing. We needed to really find our own way to make this happen. And every time I asked someone in any industry when it comes to cutting or galvanics or any other part of this, the answer was always, there's no precedent, you just have to try. And that's what we did. We tried, and we tried a lot. And it was an interesting journey for me as a sound engineer. The last function I have is quality control. Now, quality control is a very different beast to quality control when it comes to minting coins. Minting coins is an optical process. You look at the coin, does it look good? If it looks good, it's fine. So our minters were very surprised to find out that a lot of the records they were minting that looked absolutely pristine and perfect sounded terrible, and we couldn't use them. So there's a lot more to doing quality control with a record than there is than if you'd be using coins, because it has that extra element of the sound, and that's really the main focus here. Of course, we can't have scratches and we can't have blemishes just like with the coins, but at the end of the day, our customers are looking for a pristine, beautiful sounding product, and that's what they're going to get. And we put a lot of work into that. The third thing I'd like to talk about briefly, because this isn't my field, but I'd like to mention it anyway, is the pressing. Now, there's a lot of differences in pressing metal to vinyl, as you can probably imagine. I can't get into all of them here. But just the intricacies of the composition of a blank that you're going to use for this, it's not as easy as just throwing copper in there. This is actually quite complicated, and what I found out, what really surprised me, is that every little detail, every minute thing that you usually say, well, what's the difference? There's a difference. Everything makes a difference, and it does make a difference optically. You're not going to see it, but you're going to hear it. So sound gives this whole process another dimension that it didn't have before, and there's a whole slew of problems that come with that. And with that, I'd like to get back to Mark.
Thank you, Marcus. Marcus has played a critical role in bringing together music and BHMaya cutting-edge minting technology. I want to thank Bernard Schreiber, the mid-master at BH Meyer. Without his direction and mastery and his determination, level of motivation, this would not have been possible. And as I said before, this was a challenge, but we didn't give up. Steve Jobs once said, "To me, ideas are worth nothing unless executed." So we've all got great ideas, but actually delivering them is the hard part. And I can't take credit for that one. This project proves that Precious Sound has at the intersection of craftsmanship, technology, emotion, and legacy. And through our partnership with BH Meyer, we've proven that precious metal can carry not just value, but voice. I'd like to finish by playing a video that was filmed for Rick, a music collector, when Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of KISS were signing his Pure Gold Strutter record.
Congratulations. For so many years, I wanted a gold album, a gold record. Well, you've got a 24-karat gold record. You can't beat that. And it happens to be a great song. Strutter. I'm going to sign this. This is Gene's Recollections. And you have a kit here that has everything you could use to keep this in the condition it should be and deserves to be. And you got all these great KISS logos with Swarovski crystals. I mean, come on. It's Christmas in July. Cheers.